Americans eat $24 billion worth of savory snacks a year. That's loads of potato chips, corn chips, pretzels, and just about anything you can put salt on. 9 of the 10 top-selling brands are made by one company, Frito-Lay, the biggest player in the industry.
Even though you have one large national player, you do have dozens of strong, mostly family-owned regional companies.
Pennsylvania, the chipping potato state. That moniker probably won't replace the state motto, but the area around Hanover and York in southeastern Pennsylvania is nicknamed the Potato Chip Belt, for a reason. Not just any old potato is fit to become a potato chip. They're bred specifically for that purpose, to be round and to have low moisture content. Water has to be cooked out, and too much of it leads to a bland-tasting chip. Although the potato was discovered and cultivated by pre-Columbian farmers in the Andes Mountains, it took several thousand years for someone to stumble on the idea for the potato chip. In 1853, George Crumb was working as a chef at the upscale Moon Lake Lodge in Saratoga Springs, New York. The quick-tempered chef was insulted when a patron returned some French fries because they were too thick. In response, Crumb cut the potatoes thin as paper, fried them to a crisp, and sent them back to the table. Of course, the chips were a hit.
He created a brand new product. There was no R&D involved with it. It was totally impulsive. The ingredients involved with this was anger and maybe a little bit of exacting of revenge.
By the 20th century, people began frying chips in their kitchens and selling them locally. This was especially prevalent in southeastern Pennsylvania.
They tended to have the entrepreneurial spirit. Some people would say hard-headed, but they liked to be on their own and be self-sufficient. They were growing potatoes, plus the capital expenditure to get into the business with those early, very simple equipment and production methods was low cost and easy.
In 1921, Utz Quality Foods in Hanover, Pennsylvania was launched with this combination of modest expense and hard work.
My grandfather, William Utz, was a factory worker at Hanover Shoe in Hanover, and Sally, his wife, was a homemaker. Bill heard about a older gentleman in York, Pennsylvania, who had a small chip kettle that wanted to get out of the business, so he quit his job at Hanover Shoe, scraped together $300, bought the equipment, and brought it to their home in downtown Hanover. So from that point, Grandma Sally began cooking the chips, and Bill would go door to door selling them.
By 1930, Hanover Home Brand Potato Chip, as the company was called at the time, expanded to a building behind the house. By 1936, their automatic potato chip cooker was frying 300 pounds of chips an hour. This early cooker was a quantum leap forward. But nothing compared to this contemporary $5.2 million fryer.
We're now at the beginning of one of our continuous fryers. This is our biggest fryer. It's capable of doing 4,200 pounds of chips in an hour.
Before the chips hit the oil, the potatoes must be sorted.
One of the things a lot of people don't realize is we have to sort the potatoes into various sizes in order to get those potatoes in the bags. You use big potatoes for big bags and small potatoes for small bags.
These potatoes, a variety called Snowdens, are pumped into the plant in a flume of water that efficiently washes them as it moves them. It takes 4 pounds of potatoes to make a pound of chips.
This is a modern peeler. There are a series of drums where we can adjust the abrasive inside those drums. Depending on the kind of potato and the toughness of the skin, we will literally rub the outside off.
The peels aren't wasted. They'll be sold for animal feed. Once peeled, the potatoes are off to the slicer, a spinning ring of surgical steel blades set with a micrometer to a slice thickness of between 0.045 and 0.065 inches for their various chips. After excess moisture is blown off, they're carried into a bath in 2,800 gallons of 350-degree cottonseed oil.
there are actually hold-down belts that are inside this continuous fryer that push the slices down into the oil, and then there are paddles on those belts so that they bring those slices along and turn them into chips as they come through the hot oil.
Salt is added to the chips as they come out of the fryer, and they're immediately inspected.
Right after the chips are salted, they go through a machine that actually sorts out the dark chips, or the chips that have blemishes. This machine has cameras in it and is set so that when it detects any kind of blemish or dark spot, it hits that chip with a puff of air and puts it down into a channel to have it removed from the stream of chips.
Pickers will then inspect the chips again before they fall into buckets on the weigh scales.
The weight in each bucket is registered on a computer, and then the exact combination of buckets are opened up to get the weight in the bag within 1 gram of what is called for.
The bags are flushed with nitrogen before the chips go in. They'll last 5 weeks longer in a nitrogen environment than they would in oxygen, up to 8 weeks on the shelf. Utz makes 1 million pounds of potato chips a week in over 100 varieties, including old-fashioned hand-cooked chips.
As far as hand-cooked potato chips, we have a broader range of varieties than anybody in the industry, with offerings cooked in cottonseed oil, peanut oil, hydrogenated shortening, primarily soybean shortening, and lard, which a lot of people would think would not be appealing, but there's a very strong demand in central Pennsylvania for a lard-based product.